So we have here the Fab Four games have been announced. We already know the matchups went into it. After the night ended, we know that Troy defeated North Dakota State in overtime in 78-70 only seed over Louisiana Tech. And then 71-64 Buffalo Rutgers. And Cleveland State beat Purdue for 78. Let's say it was like 78-65 or 76-55. Not for sure. But someone called me on the phone. Then I ended the video. And then I ended the video. And by the time I was back in like a minute. After like a quick minute, it was over. So Cleveland State beat Purdue for me officially. It was, and LSU was so like 40, like 30, like 27 so something. Yeah. And then so we have Troy. Since Troy did not won and did not host the grade 8 game, I said if Illinois State for them to host, you'd have to guarantee host. You'd have to hope Troy wins, and they did. Troy won 23-13. They're now out of the Sun Belt, the third place team of the Sun Belt, taking on one of the top teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, but not the top team in the Missouri Valley though. You had Illinois, Missouri State. Who else? Can't remember now if there are any other Missouri Valley Conference teams in the WNIT, but Missouri, but Illinois State is one of them that took a bid in the WNIT, the one's NIT. They're playing in the Fab Four Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern. At home against Troy. And then on the right side of the bracket, we have, since they're going to give Buffalo the host though, which makes sense because Buffalo hosted the grade, even though Rutgers could host the grade 8. That's why Buffalo got the grade 8 host. Buffalo is going to get the Fab 4 host because they hosted the grade 8 while Cleveland State did not host the grade 8 matchup. So it's Cleveland State at Buffalo, and that's going to be at 6 Eastern on Wednesday night, as well as the Fab 4 is the first and the second, and that's what of April. The 1st and 2nd of April is the Fab 4, and that is the end of that it'll be. They had it before. They had like both games like overlap each other a little bit, like, or one started, one started when one played, I don't know why they just don't have it. If they want, both play each other at the same time. I don't know why they don't. Like maybe 7 Eastern, have both play. So like if they want neither team to get an advantage, be able to watch the other matchup, because Buffalo, the winner of Buffalo at Cleveland State Buffalo, can watch and find out who actually they play. Troy and Illinois State find out, get a little bit watching and like on like ESPN Plus at least, or if they can, if they're able to, watch it somehow, so. But and then these two games, they also overlap with the start of the WBIT championship game, and that is on ESPN2 at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's on ESPN2 at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, as well as the men's NIT is tomorrow. And then the women's WBIT championship will be Wednesday. And then Thursday is the men's NIT. So. And then the WBIT kind of gets a little bit bad because the women's turn is on Monday goes to Mondays. The women's NCAA tournament does. The women's NCAA tournament was 7 days. It's the same as for the first 2 rounds. It was Thursday through Sunday, just like the men's was. Then they win the Sweet 16 Elite 8. Then the women's WBIT would probably be in the afternoon. Would be in like the afternoon and the evening. But it's not, So that's why it kind of had to be in that early mid afternoon to like early evening. But oh well. And then, but at least it is what it is. And then I'm gonna also share with you my thoughts on who do I think is going to win these 2 games between Troy, Illinois State, and Cleveland State at Buffalo. I'm gonna have these 2 on as well, in like maybe a split screen. But I can't really do any whip around with these games because there's only 2 games. There's only 1 game. Most of the 2 games will be like almost done, like the WBIT championship game will almost be done, and then the Cleveland State at Buffalo game, will be almost done as well. Cleveland State at Buffalo will almost be done, so it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, really? You can. But I'd be focusing. I probably could, but since Minnesota and Gophers are playing, and then I really want to focus more on that game. Plus, there's the WBIT championship game, which is a big deal. Not everyone's gonna think it's like, oh, it's not. Yeah, it's not a big deal to everyone, but you know what? I'm gonna watch because the Gophers are playing in the championship. See if they could win the championship of the WBIT Women's Basketball Invitation. Sure. For the Women's Basketball Invitation tour. Let's talk about Cleveland State at Buffalo at Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. At 6 p.m. local time at Buffalo, New York. And what do I think? See, this is tough because Buffalo played against a good Rutgers team. At Rutgers, despite the Rutgers actually played well. They were just getting fatigued at the end. But Buffalo, wore them down. Rutgers isn't the greatest team in the Big Ten. You can see it, but some of these mid-majors, like they have a size advantage on like some of these mid-major schools. And it shows, because, like if you don't have like the size advantage with the team, and then you're trying to outcompete them, it's hard, But like Buffalo did it. Buffalo did it, and they really showed that they can be physical. They got the home crowd on their side and got them playing well, and that like really worked. They had the home crowd on their side, and it really showed. Really showed. Buffalo really took it to Rutgers. They didn't really take it to Rutgers, but they kind of did. The score doesn't really show it, but they did. Especially in that fourth, though, they were kind of even or behind a little bit, and then they end up fighting back. I want to watch that game on replay because I have ESPN Plus, so I was able to watch that game on replay. And man, I didn't see this. I didn't look at the score, nothing like that either. I want to watch it no score, and I just skipped like the commercials and all that stuff. So I did. So I watched the game. And Man, that was a really good game. A tough game. But Buffalo just outplayed them, and they Buffalo, right? Rutgers play their own style of play, while Buffalo play their own style of play. And they didn't get rattled. Neither team really got rattled. No, like neither team got phased. Like sometimes you might see one team, they try to take the other team out and get rattled. But neither team got really rattled. They played their own style of play. Neither team really got rattled. You know what I mean? Like they never Rutgers didn't change their style. Of play to. I mean, he might have a little bit knew what they did wrong, but they didn't their game mainly their main identity all season. They didn't really change that. Buffalo really didn't change that either. So both teams played solid basketball, but Buffalo got the win. And in Cleveland State, they played Purdue or Wayne for the fourth time this season. That's hard to play a team 4 times in one season. That is. That's tough. But they did it, and Cleveland State got the win in the second game. Which I thought so. That Purdue Wayne might get because Purdue Wayne got the win. Maybe they bounce back. Or maybe, Cleveland State had that extra chip on their shoulder. Like, hey, we lost to Cleveland. Purdue Wayne. If you're Cleveland State, it's a good trick. We lost them in the Horizon League Championship semifinals. And, we lost them. We wanted a chance to compete in the NCAA tournament. We didn't get that. They took away from us. And we're going to take away their chance at a championship. And that's what they did. But I like so you got the MAC hosting the Horizon League. And there are a couple of good teams. Cleveland State is the third place team on the Horizon. Buffalo is the third place team out of the MAC. And I really like Buffalo. I really do like Buffalo, I think. I mean, in Cleveland State, I really do. I mean, I know Cleveland State really had an advantage though because they played a team that they played 3 times. And they were able to show what they did wrong, in the last game, in the neutral site game. And able to go back, look at that film. I mean, because if you don't, you might think that's your last game of the season. But if you don't really get any film, you didn't, and they might have gotten any film time, see what they did wrong, Maybe they did after the tournament, or maybe they did after the season. Or unless the coach told the players hey, we have a chance, we have a good possibility of getting invited into the WNIT. WNIT, we're gonna play in there, and the players are oh, okay, we'll be happy to play in it. And so maybe they did, if they did, and the players would say it too, And I don't, but I like Buffalo, Becky Burke is a really solid coach at Buffalo. She is, And Cleveland State's a solid team. They're not in the Purdue Fort Wayne level yet in Green Bay, but some of these mid-majors, so it's hard to change because you change too much. Sometimes you you might move on. Some of these mid-majors, they get recruited by if they they might get recruited by power conference schools. I want to see if I can get played at a better mid-major conference, a power conference level, and so you kind of have things. But Cleveland State, I like Cleveland State though. I mean, Cleveland State plays pretty well though, but I just think overall that Buffalo was really tested in that game against Rutgers. And they didn't let up, They didn't let up. Cleveland State has played Purdue for Wayne, and both teams know each other, and they know their styles. And, and they might have changed a few things to, kind of, deepen the playbook. And some of the things that they do. To kind of, trick them. I guess, I don't know, you know what I mean? You kind of change things up a little bit, and Cleveland State did that enough. Because they won by 13. But Cleveland State lost to Purdue for Wayne at home. And they lost to, then they beat Purdue for Wayne, and Purdue for Wayne was at home. The home teams actually lost, and then Cleveland State won at Purdue for Wayne, and Purdue for Wayne won at Cleveland State, and Purdue for Wayne won at the neutral court. And then, then we have, I like Buffalo. Buffalo, like I said, they didn't let Rutgers, the size advantage, maybe they play in a tough Big Ten conference, the physicality of the Big Ten, they didn't let that get to them. You know what I mean? Some of that, a team's up trying, plays in a tough physical conference, trying out physical me, I'm not, they didn't let that phase them, which is a really sign of a good solid team. You don't get rattled, you don't let another team rattle you, you know what I mean? And then we had Troy at Illinois, but I like Buffalo. Give me Buffalo on that one. I like Buffalo. Cleveland State, their last matchup, they play a team 4 times, so it's kind of hard for me, it's kind of hard to judge a team off that, because both teams know what each other did wrong. They did well, and they didn't do as well, in last matchup. And they can improve on that, you know what I mean? And then Cleveland State also has that revenge factor, hey, we lost them. We lost to them in the NCAA tournament. They took away our chance at the NCAA tournament. Because for these mid-major conferences, especially one big league getting the NCAA tournament, even if you got blown out by even if you were shut, didn't score a single point that whole game, it was 100-0, say. That's a success as a mid-major coach, that's a good, it's you have you're successful, at a mid-major level. So, and then, but then in the third tier tournament, you're well, we can use that motivation, to say well, hey, they took our chance away at the NCAA tournament, for chance at the NCAA tournament. We can take away their chance at the WNIT championship, or our chance at championship. We can take away their chance at championship. That's what they did. But so the Buffalo, give me Buffalo though. Buffalo's a solid team, and I think they got what it takes though to win the championship. I really do. But give me, and then Troy at Illinois State Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern. Now I like both teams, honestly, because Troy is a solid team that's played some tough matchups. They played, especially they played in the Super 16. In the second round, they didn't have the toughest matchup, but they did well against them. They kind of had a little separation. And then they played North Texas. Tough. They played a tough, gritty North Texas team at home. Beat them, which is a really good test for them. Then they beat a really tough North Dakota State team at home. But I don't know, I Illinois State played some tough, good matchups, but They didn't like really play that tough with tough teams. Troy said they grind out a few wins. Troy said they grind out a few wins. You know what I mean? Overtime and stuff. And like play tough, physical, you know. I don't know where, you know. And I actually say give me Troy. And that one, I like Troy. To go that one just because they play tougher matchups. You don't know what it's like to play tough matchups, playing overtime. Give me Troy. What?